And we're going to start with a word of prayer. So let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today, thanking you so much for life and thanking you for the blessings that you've poured out upon us so far. We ask that you will be with us in this tofu and bread making session. We pray that everything will go well. We pray that the participants will learn a lot today and that they'll be able to share it with others. We thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
So today is our first ever tofu and bread making session. And we're so excited that you've decided to join us today. We hope that you will learn a lot, and we hope that you'll be able to use the information that you've learned today to share it with others, to make your own bread, to make your own tofu, maybe even start a business with it. And so there's so many exciting things that can come out of this session. So we're really excited to be able to share this information with you. And I won't belabor this any longer. We'll just get right into it. So, Mommy, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So should I put up the PowerPoint now? Good morning. Are we matching? Is yours blue or is it black?
It's black, I think.
Okay, we're not matching. Mine is blue. Should I put up the PowerPoint?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So you can say hi to everyone.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to all of you.
Good
DRD
morning.
is, yes, morning, Monica. We are pleased to bring you this session. And I'm not sure how much of my kitchen you can see, but I'm going to ask you to bear with me as I will be turning the laptop as I move around in the kitchen as well. So you can probably see
We can see
just
the
me right
fridge.
now.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh, all right. But well, while I talk, then I will just allow you to see me. So you can begin the PowerPoint. Um, Bread making. Growing up in the islands, I never learned how to make bread. It was never something that we did. We always bought bread. And when I started wanting to do things myself, then, I thought it would be good to learn how to make bread. So um, that was one of the things that I, learned how to do, and find it very, very, very interesting. Um, Something I think I love doing now that I know how to do it. And just enjoy eating my own bread, knowing full well that what is in it, I know exactly what's in it. And I know definitely that my bread is fresh. And I keep it fresh by keeping it in the freezer 2 days after it's been baked. So once it's baked, then we know that the yeast is still active in it and we should not eat hot bread, right? So when it's baking, it smells so nice, it is tempting, but we should not eat hot bread. We should always allow 2 to 3 days in order that the yeast will die out of the bread. And the yeast is the only thing that we are allowed to eat fermented. However, because it sits for the 2 days, then it's okay for us to eat it. So you can continue. Uh, a mother's duty. It is a religious duty of every Christian girl and woman to learn at once to make good, sweet, light bread from unbolted wheat flour. Mothers should take their daughters into the kitchen with them when very young and teach them the art of cooking. So I grew up with my grandmother. So my grandmother never know this quote, right? She never know how to make bread either. But it is now our responsibility to teach our children, it doesn't matter how old they are, teach them how to make good light bread. Continue. Bread and religion. Some do not feel it is a religious duty to prepare food properly, hence they do not try to learn how. They let the bread sour before baking, and the saleratus, which is the sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate, which is like baking soda, is added to remedy the cook's carelessness, makes it totally unfit for the human stomach. It requires thought and care to make good bread. But listen to this part. There is more religion in a good loaf of bread than many think. And that is something that we can talk about another time. But just to give you an idea of the religion that's in the bread, as you're kneading the dough, you can ask the Lord to make you and mold you and fashion you after his likeness. And that's just one aspect. But another thing is, if you know how to make good bread, and when we moved into this neighborhood, we made bread and took it to all our neighbors and gave it to them as an introduction. So we are introducing ourselves to them, but we are also giving something to them. Continue. So hot yeast bread, this is the one we mentioned, that bread should be light and sweet, but there should be no sourness in our bread. So those who love sourdough bread, if your bread is sour, it should not go into your stomach. The loaves should be small and thoroughly baked. And as that happens, the yeast germs is destroyed. When hot or new raised bread of any kind is difficult for digestion, it should never appear on the table. So as much as we're tempted, back in Jamaica, I loved hot bread. We would buy the bread at the store, and by the time we get home, maybe a quarter of the bread is gone because we would just squeeze it up in our hands and just eat it. But now I know better that what I was doing then was wrong. Okay, next. And this is when your bread is light and soft, that's what the inside should look like. You should have air pockets in it because of because it has risen. So the yeast allowed that to happen. So this is what you want to look for in your bread. And this is the recipe that we will be using today. So what I did, I made a recipe of the bread already, and I have it going in the oven. I put it in the oven with the lights on, just the light on. The oven is not turned on. That's where I keep my bread warm, because it needs to be in a warm place. So I keep it in the oven just with the light on. So you can try that as well for your bread. Or if you're in the islands, then you might not need to do that. So I'm just gonna wash my hands.
Should I stop sharing the PowerPoint now so they can see you fully?
Yes, thank you.
And you'll get access to this PowerPoint, so don't worry if you're not able to write everything down right now.
Okay, so yeah, the kitchen is a hot mess, but trust me, when we're making tofu, the kitchen is a hot mess. Everything is moved out of place, and it's just preparing for tofu making. So, and I have the flour here, and I must also tell you that we are moving. So most of my containers are already packed away. They are in boxes packed away. So I'm doing some improvising here today. So this is my flour, and this container, let me put this
Yeah.
down. This container is small. Can you see? Yes.
Yeah.
This container is small, so I would use a bigger bowl, but that's what I'm using today. This is my yeast. I keep it in the refrigerator. I bought a bag, and I just pour it in this mason jar, keep it fresh in the refrigerator. This is my sugar. So I'm gonna add it to the flour, which is organic cane sugar, or you can use honey. If you're gonna use honey, then you add your honey to the liquid that you will need, that you will use. And my salt. And usually I don't mix them when I'm adding them, because sometimes you may walk away and you come back and I'm like, what did I add again? So that way I know exactly what I have added to the mixture already.
So
I'm just
far
getting,
you have flour, sugar, and salt.
yes,
And what are you getting now?
I'm getting my water. And this is the yeast, okay? And then I mix all of this together. You can add oil. If you want to add oil, then you can add 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, but you don't have to. So 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil would be good for this recipe. And if you notice, I've already cleaned my counter and floured it, because the mixture is not, it's not hard. It's not like when you're making like dumplings. This mixture is soft, and I don't mind doing it, because on a whole, I don't do, I use the spoon, but generally I don't use my hand to make dumplings. I use a spoon, and I might not even eat people's dumpling, to be honest, because I don't know how they make it. So I'm just transferring this pot because it's a little bigger, so I can mix it properly in the pot. As I said, I would have used a bowl, and we have different sizes of bowls. And this is the water. Now, I must say something about the water, because depending on where you are, you might need more or less water. So please bear that in mind. When the elevation, if you're very high above sea level, you might need more or less. Depending on the day, if it's a very hot day, you might need more or less. So just bear that in mind. Some days I use 3 2/3 cup of water. Some days I use 3 1/3. So just bear that in mind. What I want you to remember is, if you're using honey, then you will mix the honey in the liquid, and your water is warm water, just warm to the touch. And you're going to add the honey to the liquid and mix that into it before you add it to the flour mixture. All right.
So how much water did you add to yours today?
So this one I did 3 1/3, because when I did the other one this morning, about an hour or so ago, that's the amount it took. So if you notice, it's very moist. And once you have all the mixture together, then you're gonna mix this for about 3 minutes. You can use your hand if you want, but I don't like to have the flour going through my hand and da 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 da. So the spoon comes in very handy for me in this
Mhm.
case. So, and what I'm doing, I'm taking from the sides, and let me do it slowly. So I'm taking from the sides and I'm bringing it to the center. And this is what you would do if you're using your hand. You would take it from the sides, bring it to the center, and here, and you're using this part of your hand to press into it, right? And I will show you that in the next step, right? So I am kneading it because you need to also put some air into it as well. And then the yeast will cause it to rise. And after that, you're gonna knead it down as well. Now, there are some persons who would use a bread machine. If you want, you can use a bread machine. The recipe for the bread machine might be a little different, but if you're using a bread machine, then usually you add the liquid first. So you would add your water first, then your honey, then your oil, and then you would put the dry ingredients. So then you can put your flour, and you put your salt to the side, and you put your yeast to the side, and then the machine will do the mixing for you. But this I believe is a very good way to say, look what I am able to do. And in the bread machine, you get the loaf a particular shape. This way you can shape the loaf yourself, but and you can decide what size loaf you want as well. And the bread machine is going to give you a very big loaf. So, and this way you're certain of the size you're getting. All right, so now I'm going to set this aside so that it can rise. Oh, perfect timing. Let's see what's happened with the one I did first. Again, remember, I'm improvising. So that's the only bowl, that glass one there is the only one I had left out. All the other bowls are packed away already. So now we're gonna put this aside. You're gonna cover it with you can cover it with a kitchen towel. If it's a deep container, then you can use, a pot or something like that. So I'm just gonna grab a towel and I'm putting it over it, and I'm just gonna rest this on the stove.
So that timer is for one
I
that you
set that,
already did this morning.
yeah, that timer I set for the one I did before. So could you please, Danisha, set a timer for 35 minutes for that one for me, please? And what you want, what you're waiting for is for it to double in size.
So did you put it in the oven with the light on?
Just with the light on. That's what I did with this one. And as you can see, let me show you. So this is
Mm-hmm.
what turned into this, right? So you can
Yeah.
see way double in size.
Okay. So I set the timer for 35 minutes. And so now
Yeah.
you have this one that has doubled. So what are you going to do with this now?
Now we're gonna knead this down, right? So we're gonna push the air out of it, and We're gonna do that now on the flour surface. So let me know if you're not seeing. And what I did, I oiled the pan. I oiled this pan so that it would come out easily. With the oil on it, it will fall out quickly. So you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I put that aside. And now we're gonna knead. So you need some extra flour for kneading. Please let me know if you're not seeing properly.
We can see.
Okay, all right. So you wanna put some flour on your counter, flour on your hand so that it's not sticking. And now you're gonna knead this. Remember, you didn't do much of a kneading before because you were using the spoon, right? So here we go. We are lifting it and kneading with this section of our hand. So now we're kneading it.
Yeah, you're gonna get a workout today.
Oh yes. And you know, why let the bread machine get the workout when you can get the workout?
Yes, keep the laws of health while you're making your bread.
While you're making your bread, that's right. And you know, you just need enough flour that it's not sticking on your hand.
So how does it feel? Is it soft? Is it stiff?
It, yes, it's soft and pliable and very easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point too, you might want to start your oven, especially if your oven takes long to warm up, right? Some person's oven takes much longer than others to warm up, you know. So now, can you see what I'm doing? Can somebody tell me? Do you understand what's happening? I'm taking it from the bottom and I'm kneading into it.
Yes, we are seeing.
Okay, very good. Very good. If you have questions, ask your questions too.
So there's a question in the chat. What if you don't want to use whole wheat flour? Are there other healthy flours you can use with this recipe?
Unless the person is doing like a gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
The only flours that I've used are the whole wheat and spelt for this recipe. Whole wheat flour and spelt flour.
Yeah,
So
I know
those are
with
the ones I've
I
used.
okay. With the gluten-free bread, that one is a bit trickier. And will take
Yes, I have had many failed attempts at the gluten-free bread. So now I'm ready to put this in my container. And I'm gonna show you. So this as one bread is way too big, right? But what I'm gonna do, I am gonna put a part in a bread pan, and then I'm gonna also show you how you can make your rolls as well. So that's why I grabbed the knife, and I'm going to cut a piece off. And this piece I'm going to put in my bread pan. And for your bread or any cooking that you're doing, if you want to ensure that your whatever it is that you've cooked or you're baking does not stick, you can use, I don't know if you know lecithin oil. Lecithin or soy lecithin. You can use soy lecithin. So I've oiled this container already. You can use soy lecithin, 1 tablespoon soy lecithin to 3 tablespoons, and you grab it neatly. Put the side that has the fold on it. You put that side to the bottom, and then you're going to cover this, and again, keep it in a warm place. So you're cooking, you're at home and you're cooking. So your kitchen is probably the warmest place, and you can just put it on top of the stove, or you can put it on your windowsill at the sun or something like that, right? So that's the loaf that you would make. So now I'm gonna make, I have another container
Sorry,
here.
did you grease that loaf pan?
Yes, I greased them before.
Okay.
And I didn't have I'm out of lecithin oil. So this time I didn't have any lecithin oil. So I just use oil. But with the lecithin oil, I tell you, it falls right out. Anything you bake falls right out of the pan. So let's see, I'm not necessarily counting, I'm just cutting. But we're going to make some rolls with these. And we're making the pull away ones. We're not making the, you know, the individual rolls. So we're gonna make some pull away rolls. And the reason I'm adding more flour is because on the inside it's kind of sticky and I don't want it sticking to my hand. So now I don't know how you make your dumplings, but some people, this is how they make dumplings. What you're actually doing, you're
Bring your
pushing
hand
it.
down a little, mommy. Bring it, yeah.
So you're taking the end and you're pushing it under. You're pushing it under, and then you have the top nice and round, but then you have the fold at the bottom, right? And you try to make the bottom as neat as possible. And you're gonna add that to your container. So we have one down. And what happens is it will rise and they will all come together. And when they're baked, then you can just pull them apart. So we have two. I'm gonna try for 3 to the row. So the first row, you will have 3, or depending on the shape of your pan, you could have 4, whatever the amount you have in the first row. So again, I'm just pushing it under to get a neat, nice top. Whatever you have in the first row, in the second row, you put 1 less. So in the second row, you're putting it in between. So you want it, you don't want to have 3, 3, 3. You can do that as well. But I'm doing 3 because that's what the container can hold across. And then I'm gonna do 2. And then I'm gonna do 3 again, and maybe it can hold 3, yeah, and the last 2. So always have some extra flour on the counter so that once it starts to stick to your hand, you can just rub your hand in the flour. And here we go. We are folding it under, so that we get a nice round top. Okay. And we're pushing them close together as well so that they will rise that way. And when it's baked, then you can just pull them apart. I'm just gonna steal a piece and put on that one. So this is something you can do. Once you have done this, I am not going to do that today, but what you can do is you can get some honey, mix a little honey in some water. I'm cutting this so I can have 2 at the end. Mix a little bit of, some honey. So let me tell you what to mix. Maybe 2 tablespoons honey to 1 tablespoon water. So write that down because that's not on the PowerPoint. And then you can brush that over the top before baking it, and gives it a sweetness. So this is what, can you see it?
Yeah, we can see
All
it.
right. So that's what that looks like. And I'm gonna set this on top of the stove so that it can rise as well.
So right now do you have 3 things on top of the stove rising?
I have the one the bread we just started,
Mm-hmm.
and these two that I just
Okay.
put aside. All right.
So what do you do next?
So next, you wait. You set your timer for 30 minutes. And once you've set your timer for 30 minutes, then once that goes off, it would have risen enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna set my timer, and then you stick it in the oven. So timer, and because you have the, okay.
Yeah, I have the other
And you put it
timer.
in the oven. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
now, any questions on the bread? Because we're gonna jump over to the tofu.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
I noticed that I was going to put it in the chat, but since you asked, in the recipe you added the yeast to the dry ingredients, whereas in a lot of recipes I've seen, they ask you to proof the yeast in warm water and sugar. Does that make a big difference in the results?
No, it doesn't. So what I usually do when I buy a new batch of yeast, I would proof it. I would do that when I buy a new batch of yeast because I want to make sure that it's good. But once I proof it once, I don't do it.
Mommy, do you want to talk to us and then do that after? Yeah.
Okay, I don't do it every time. All right. But if you're gonna proof it, then like in this case where we have the sugar, you would add a cup of the water with the yeast and a tablespoon of the sugar, right? A cup of water with the yeast, and it's warm water, right? A cup of warm water with the yeast and the sugar. Mix the sugar into the water, then mix the yeast into it and set it aside 5 to 10 minutes. If it does not bubble, then it's not good. And then you just add that in when you're adding in the rest of your wet ingredients.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions?
Oh, sorry, the yeast is it the Fleischmann's yeast you buy?
This yeast, that's what I usually buy. Yes, that's what I usually buy. However, sometimes I would, if I'm out and I go to Bulk Barn, I would buy it at Bulk Barn, which is basically buying it in bulk. At that time, I don't even know which one it is. I just know it's yeast. The other time, like this one, I bought this one from a bread shop. Because they had this big bag and it was only for $11, while the other one in the jar, the little jar, is for like $7 or $8. So, but
Yes.
that's the one I usually use. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other question? Because from this, I could get maybe 3 or 4 of that little jar, and I had this full and another one half from the one I bought.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying that you wouldn't make sourdough bread because the bread would still have a sour taste to it?
Yes, for years I've tried with sourdough. I have had I've had the what you call it in the fridge,
The
feeding it
starter.
The starter.
starter. Yeah, I've had it in the fridge and I've been feeding it. It doesn't matter how I try because it's a slower acting yeast and you have to leave it for like 6 hours to rise. And then after that 6 hours, you knead it down and put it for another 2 hours. And during that time, it gets sour. And sometimes even the starter itself has a sour smell. So after trying for maybe about 3 or 4 years, I gave up.
Okay.
I threw out the starter and I was actually using the starter just to make crackers. But I stopped because for that very reason, I couldn't get it, um, what you call it, fresh or tasting without the sour taste in it.
Okay.
So because of that, I stopped.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Um,
Anyone else?
Mommy, I think we should leave the rest of the questions for the end so you can clean up and you can start doing the tofu.
Yeah, I'm just washing my hands now, and then I'm going to go straight into the tofu.
Okay. While you're doing that, 8SWBAT, what's your name, please? It would be nice for us to know who everyone is on the call. And again, we thank you everyone for
It's
joining us.
Maureen.
Oh, it's Maureen. Welcome,
Yeah,
Maureen.
I'm
Yeah.
enjoying the information.
Okay, we're happy that you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And
And we're happy that you're feeling better.
Yes, happy to have you, Maureen. I
Yes,
was wondering too.
yes. Thank
ah,
you. Thank you.
yes, I just
Okay.
realized, huh? You're done?
Yes.
You cleaned the counter already?
On, I wiped it. I'll wash it when I'm done.
Okay. All right, we'll go. Oh, the PowerPoint. Okay.
Yes, the PowerPoint.
So let's go back to the PowerPoint.
So as for the tofu, I am excited to teach persons how to make tofu. It is very, very easy. I think the hardest part is just getting the milk out of it. And but once you've started making it, I don't think you would want to eat store-bought tofu anymore. And I am going to see if spray there's no accidents here. I'm going to try to move this thing, get it a little closer.
Maybe you want to mute yourself, mommy.
What are you moving? We know you're moving, but you're moving something else.
Oh, dear.
I'm trying to get you closer to another section of the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanna, okay, let's do the PowerPoint first.
Yeah, we'll do the
Years ago,
PowerPoint first.
someone taught me how to make tofu. I have no idea who this person is. I don't remember, but someone taught me. That much I know, and I am very thankful for that. And I am not sure if we're all familiar with what soybean looks like. I think we are, but let me not take it for granted. I should have done this before, but this is dried soybean.
Mommy, do you want to show us after the PowerPoint? Because you're really small in the corner.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I get you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So soybeans is the world's healthiest food, right? And 100 grams has 36 grams of protein. It's best to get organic beans. A little goes a long way because when you soak, say half a cup of beans, then you get a whole cup and a half or so of beans. And what you see on the screen here is edamame, which is the soybean before it's dried. And you can buy that in the store. It is sold in the frozen section of the store. And this is very good for persons who have hormonal issues like menopause and stuff like that. why make your own tofu? You can decide what grain you're using, so you can use your own organic grain. You get your tofu fresh. There's no preservative added to it. The taste is better, and you feel a sense of accomplishment. So it's rewarding. So in tofu making, we use coagulants, and I will show you them as we go along. The first one is magnesium chloride, and another name for that is negari, and you would get the food grade. Now, I have used the negari in my tofu making, but if you're doing it to sell, then this is very expensive. The gari is very expensive, and so you might want to use one of the other options. But it gives your tofu a very smooth texture. So that's the difference with using the nagari as opposed to using the other options, that I find at least. Magnesium sulfate, and most of us are familiar with this. It's otherwise called Epsom salt. It's the same thing that you soak your feet in. However, you must get the food grade, right? It must be food grade Epsom salt, and it's naturally pure mineral compound. And you would use to 2 cups of dried beans, you would use 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt. Gypsum, I've never used, but that can also be used to coagulate. Because what you're doing is, if you've ever put lemon juice or lime juice in cow's milk, then you get that coagulation going on. That's what you want when you're doing your tofu. So the other things that you can use, I have never used, is lemon juice and vinegar. Again, we are not suggesting that you use vinegar. Don't use vinegar. So another reason why it's best that you use your own, you make your own tofu, because you're not sure what is the coagulant that they're using. But the lemon juice, I would not use it either because it is too expensive. This is just some facts about tofu, the amount of protein that's in it, carbohydrates, fat, fiber, calcium, manganese, phosphorus, iron, magnesium, thiamine, and zinc. So when you eat tofu, you're getting lots of minerals. It's okay. And okara is after you've blended the tofu and you've squeezed it out, what's left, and I did save some, I have some here, is the okara. So this is just the pulp that after, it's like the coconut trash then, right? This is the pulp. It's called okara. It's very high in fiber, calcium, and protein. So you don't want to keep all of it, because you might not use all of it after making a tofu, but at the same time, you might not want to discard all of it. So that as it is moist with the liquid still in it, you could put it in the freezer and add it to your stews, your soups, your burgers, whatever, or you can add it to your compost pile. But another thing that you can do with it, and I have some in the freezer, I forgot to take it out, is you can crumble that on a tray, put it in the oven on low heat, and let it dry. Or if you have oh boy,
Dehydrator.
dehydrator, that's right. If you have a dehydrator, you can spread it out on your dehydrator and let it dry. And once it's dried, you can use it in the same way, right? You can put it in your soups. It's just that it will last longer and you don't have to put it in the freezer. And that's your recipe for making tofu. So when you're making your tofu, you would use 2 cups of your dried bean. At least that's what I use for the tofu that we sell.
Just check this and it's just saying 90.
Pardon me? Oh, okay. That's the recipe that we use. 2 cups of dried beans. You need your water for blending and your coagulant of your choice. Now you need quite a bit of utensils, and these are some of them. So let me see the next slide, please. Oh, it's utensils. Okay, next one. And the method. Okay, all right. So you're gonna soak your beans overnight. That's one thing I have learned. You can't rush the soybean process. I've tried it. You know, like if you're doing chickpeas and you want to rush the process, so you pour hot water over it and it comes up quicker. If you do that with the soybean, then the milk is not good when you get the milk. So next slide. All right, so you can put me back now so I can show. So this is the soybean. That's it dried. And when it is soaked, it's doubled in size. So this is it soaked, right? And what I have in here, which is about 1.5 cups, was 1/2 cup of dried beans. So this is 1/2 cup of dried beans. And I set this aside because I'm going to use this to make some soy milk. The utensils, so I have a flat colander. You also need one of this type of colander as well. This is the Epsom salt that I use. It is food grade Epsom salt, and I buy this. I live in the country, so I don't get this in the country, so I have to buy this in Toronto. And this is the same thing. I just pour it in here for easier, so I can use it easier with my spoon. You will need weight. You need something that's heavy. And for me, I just use a mason jar filled with water as your weight. This is your mold, a tofu mold. You can buy this at Amazon or anywhere online. And with this, you get the cloth, because you need to have a cloth inside of it so that the liquid does not spill out of it. I mean, the pulp, the soybean, does not spill out of it once you put it inside the mold. So here, this is what you would do. You would just press it down in that. And once you put the tofu in it, you use the press, and you press onto it to get out as much liquid as possible. And then you put your weight on top of it, and you will see all of that. We'll show you all of that. This is my, what I use to package it with the food saver sealer. I use this to seal it. And I have all of these in a container. You will need, this is called voile. So this is the material. But if you don't know what voile is, it's the same material, the thin material you use as window curtain material, right? So that's what it is. But the name of it is voile. If you go to the store, then that's what you would ask for. And if you cannot find voile, then when I learned, I was taught to use an old t-shirt. And when I learned, I did not have mold. I only got the tofu mold once I started selling tofu. Before that, when I'm making it for my family, I would just put it in this. So this is an old t-shirt, and I would just cut up this. When I say an old t-shirt, I'm talking about a new, this one is old, but you buy yourself a new t-shirt, right? Or an undershirt. And you cut the sleeves out, and you just cut the sides down to open it up. You can still see the shirt shape in this, right? So you have this, and this is what I used before. I use this as my mold because when I pour the at the end, I would just pour it in this, hold it up and squeeze it, squeeze the water out of it. And I would have a round tofu. But does it matter if it's round? Because you're not gonna eat it whole anyways. You're gonna cut it up in order to, in whatever shape you want, right? So the other thing that you need, you need a blender. You need to have a blender. I use this container as my measuring container. And if you see, there's a mark there. So for the tofu that we make, that's the amount of milk that we use. I have these containers as well. So for every cup of bean that you blend, you use 3 cups of water. So 3 cups of water to 1 cup of bean. This is the soaked bean. However, I don't have time every time to measure out 3 cups of water. So this is 3, 6, 9, right? So I mark it. And for this one, this is a bigger jug. This is 4. This is 12 cups of water. So that one was 9, that one is 12. And I've shown you that already. You need a ladle. You need a nice, good wooden spoon. And you also need a thermometer. Or if you don't have a thermometer, you just need to watch it and watch the milk. Because if you have ever put milk on the fire, you know that the minute you turn your back, that's when it's going to spill over. Sorry, I'm just setting a timer here on my milk. Okay. So I have the milk going, and now this one is in Celsius. So I have it at, once it gets to 90 degrees Celsius, then that's when I add my Epsom salt to the mixture, and it curds for it to become a curd. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, I kept this so I could show you how it's done. I'm gonna blend.
Sorry, before you move on, there's 1 minute and 55 seconds for the bread. So I don't know if you want to check that first.
Yeah, it's rising and
Can we see it?
Yes, you can see it. I have a lot going on over here.
I know.
I'm moving again.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so there's the stove. Can you see that?
It's hard to see. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's good.
So that one, that's rising nicely.
So are you going to put it in the oven now?
These are coming up nicely as well. No, this needs a little bit more time because your timer was for this one, the second one that we had made. If you notice, that's coming up too. So, but I'm gonna move this one from the stove because I want it to go slower. Since I'm doing the tofu, I don't want it to rise so quickly.
So can you just refresh our memories? After it rises, then you would put it in the oven, right?
This one, this set.
Yeah, the rolls and the bread and you would put them in the oven.
At 350 degrees. 350 degrees for, yes, for depending on your stove, 35 can be 35 to 40 minutes or even 45 minutes. And that also depends on how big your loaf is as well. Okay, so now I'm going to blend the little beans that I have left. I did some blending already because the pot that's on the fire has the milk in it. And
before you blend, remember to mute us.
I will, yes, I will mute and show you how I strain it. So let me just mute this in the meantime.
Yeah, so remember she said it's 1 cup of soybeans to 3 cups of water, but you know, obviously you're going to be using more than 1 cup of soybeans, so you just, you know, figure out how many cups of soybeans you want and how many cups of water you'll want.
That's
She's going to
soaked bean,
blend them.
right?
Yeah,
Don't it-
yeah, these are
Oh.
soaked beans. So remember she said to soak them overnight, and then you pour off the water. You put the beans in the blender with the water, the amount of water that you want. And then she's gonna strain it. Okay, she's back now. Remember to unmute.
So I have the colander here, the colander in the with the voil, and today I'm using this container. But normally I would have one of those big stock pots that we just allow everything to go down into. And once that drains out some of the milk, then I would hold the cloth together. And usually when we're doing this, this is a family affair. If we have 3 or 4 of us here, everybody's is involved in tofu making because everybody has
A
can
job
do
to
some.
do.
Yes, somebody's watching the milk, somebody's doing this part. And we also have a press. It's like a juice. It's used for orange juice. And we use that as well to extract the milk. So I'm just turning it, right? So that once I turn it, the milk comes out and then I squeeze. So we turn and squeeze, and after a while, all you're doing is just squeezing because you know, you would have turned enough. So you need clean hands for this because your hands are involved in what's happening here. And then you get as much of the milk out of it as possible. And this is when, once we've used our hands to get out most of the milk, then we would use the press. And they do sell some machines that you just put the beans in it and it has water. It's connected to water and everything you just put the beans in, turn the machine on, and it does everything for you. That's if you're doing it, you know, on a big scale. But for our little we just make tofu once a month for our customers. So sometimes we have to do it twice a month, depending on how many orders we have, but mostly we just do it once a month. And inside of this now is the okara, right? So here we go. I don't want it to fall in the milk, but that's the okara. And you have a separate container to put your okara in. This goes in the sink.
Can you show us the okara, because it's hard to see on a white background?
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I will. And then I pour the milk into my container that is marked. So now I just make sure that it's at the point where I want it to be at, and it's at the line that I've made. And this I will pour into the pot to make another tofu. All right.
When do you put your coagulant in?
You have to wait, Christine.
Oh,
You have to
sorry.
wait.
Sorry. I thought I missed something. Okay,
No,
sorry.
you didn't miss anything.
You didn't miss it at all. You didn't miss it at all. All right. So I put that away. So we're done with the blending. You know, I didn't want to have you waiting here all day. I know we all know how to blend. And over here, normally we do the, we make the tofu inside the sink, but just so that you can see it, I have set up this pan right here with
So
my,
we can't see the counter.
can't see that, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm going to turn my thing around. And you can ask questions now while we wait, because now I have the milk. So this is the milk.
So you would have poured the milk in the pot.
Yes, I would pour the milk in the pot. Can you see it?
No, it's just bright. We can kind of
Oh,
see it. Maybe turn off the
okay.
kitchen light a little bit.
I turned off one light.
Okay, yeah, we see it.
All right, so that's
Mhm.
it. And I'm gonna wait for it to come to a boil, and you cover it. And as I said, you have to set your timer. And once your timer goes off, you don't have much time after that, because shortly thereafter, I mean, depending on your stove as well. So I would set my timer for 12 minutes. And the reason I set it for 12 minutes is because at the end of 12 minutes, I want to be drawn to this side of the kitchen. So I start watching it. I start using my thermometer, and I'm checking to see if to see what's happening over here. So my timer just went off for the bread, and I'm gonna put the bread in the oven, because I also want you to see the finished product before we finish today. Okay, and again, we're gonna set a timer for the bread in the oven. And you want to make sure that it's properly baked, so that you're getting good tasting bread. If there is moisture in your bread, so you've made your bread and there is moisture in it, you're finished and you have moisture in your bread, what you can do is to make, you don't throw it away. Your bread is light and nice, but there is moisture when you're done. Especially if you're like me, I don't cut my bread until the next day. I allow it to sit and cool on the rack, and the next day is when I would cut it. And the next day I slice it the next day. And if I'm gonna use some, I put that in the cupboard and I put the rest in the freezer, because remember, I'm not eating it until 2 days after. So if you're making bread and you know you're gonna need bread for Sabbath, then you need to make that bread either Wednesday or Thursday, so that you can eat it on Sabbath, right? And if you cut it and it's moist, then you just cut them thin, thin slices, put them on a tray and put them back in the oven on low heat. And then you will have what is called zwieback. That was one of Sister White's favorite bread. Zwieback and tomatoes. I think her tomato recipe had another name, but it's a dish where you cook down tomatoes, and that was one of her favorite meal. The bread at that time is hard, but if you're having it with, like in her case, a tomato dish with sauce, once you put it in it, it gets moist. It's soft again. Or if you're doing porridge, you can put some in your porridge, or you can just put your jam on it. Some persons don't really like crispy bread. It's very crispy. So they could put it in whatever to get moisture on it. But basically that's what you would do. So I take my thermometer and I'm checking the temperature. Remember, I'm going to 90 degrees Celsius. And right now it's at 85, 90. It's ready. Here we go, Christine. So you get your Epsom salt, you
Okay.
you stir it once or twice.
Oh
Oh
my.
no. Oh no.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. We can still use it. So that has happened to me a
We have
few
done
times.
it times.
I could probably say it's only happened to maybe twice.
Yeah, the last time I did tofu, I had a very bad spill just because I went to wash. I went in the laundry room to wash the big pot because it's so big. I washed it in the tub in the laundry room, and I had such a bad spill. At least this time, none went down into the stove. But yeah, that is why you want to watch your tofu. You want to watch your milk.
Yeah.
Really watch your milk because
Came up so
if it
quickly.
yes, and that's what happened. If you the minute you turn your back, then that is when it boils up. But yeah, you're gonna after you've done that, you cover it and you let it sit for a while. I'll clean up the stove after, but in about 10 minutes, you can start putting this in your mold. So I'll show you that, um, how that is done after. Any questions? Okay, so when you're stirring, you're not stirring constantly. You want to stir, um, kind of go in an S form, up and down, maybe once or twice until it starts to coagulate. Once you see it start to form the little,
like
once
clumps.
it yeah, starts to come together, then you stop and remove it from the fire and cover it. And the reason is it is going to, it will break them up if you continue stirring like that. All right. So the other milk that I have, I'm going to put that on in a different pot. In the meantime,
And while you're doing that one, you're not allowed to talk. And don't be distracted by Christine.
Oh,
okay,
Oh my.
that's all right.
But it's good that you have an extra one to use.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that that one was already that hot.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that hot either. So once I tried it, then it was just about ready.
But that's also a good example to show us how quickly it can.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Thank you so much. So this one is a little more. The milk is all the way up there. I'm just gonna pour enough. And I've never used this pot to make tofu, but as I said, all our pots are packed away. So, and the other thing too, if the pot was deeper, this pot, if you notice, the milk was all the way to the top. If the
Mm-hmm.
pot was deeper, then I would probably, be able to catch it. But because it is so narrow or shallow, okay. So here we go. I set my 12-minute timer,
Pour out the
and
Epsom salt, mommy. So we would
yes.
normally pour out the Epsom salt. So we take out 1 tablespoon and just already have it in a jar so that once it's at 90 degrees, you just have it pre-measured and you just put that in the milk.
Okay. So what do you do if it boils over? If it boils over and you did not put the milk in it, you remove
The
it from the
salt in it,
fire.
the salt in it.
The salt in it, sorry, the salt in it. You remove it from the fire and you use your thermometer to check when it gets to the recommended degrees, then you add the milk in it.
The
If
salt
it is
in
a
it.
the salt in it, thank you. If it's a tofu that you're selling, then you might have to keep that one because some of the milk is gone. But another thing that you can do is you can add some milk back to it, and then put it to boil again, put it on the fire again. The texture of the tofu in that case is slightly different, right? If you want, and this will give you a firm tofu. If you want a very soft tofu, then you can use, remember this one is 1 cup of soaked beans to 3 cups of water. If you want a softer tofu, you use 1 cup of soaked beans to 4 cups of water. All right, and then you will get in based on this one that we make, a bigger, softer tofu. Like if you're making scrambled egg, or you're gonna use it to blend to make a sauce or something like that, you might want a softer tofu. But other than that, if you're using it, you can just use it as we have it here. Any questions?
Oh, sorry. I'll make my comment after the questions.
How could you cook the tofu, or can you make with it?
That was what I was gonna say. We're on the same page, Chrissy.
All right.
Or let them guess first before you tell them, mommy.
Okay, so how do anyone, maybe not the person who asked the question, but anyone else, how do you cook your tofu?
Maybe they don't cook tofu. That's why they're on the call.
I normally,
Huh?
I normally season mine, fry it, and then cook it down somewhat. That's how I normally do my tofu.
All right, so you can cook your tofu anyhow you used to cook because you're changing from meat to vegetarian, vegan. Anyhow you used to cook your chicken, you can cook your tofu like that. So you're going to, I pulled this out of the cupboard. It's actually black salt, and all that's in there is black salt, but it has a very sulfur smell, which is like egg. It gives you that eggy smell. So if you can scramble your tofu, and you would add this salt at the end, because if you add it in the beginning, then you won't get the eggy taste. But other than that, you can make scrambled tofu. When you're scrambling it, you would saute your onion, your garlic. You would add whatever other seasoning you want, but you would put a little turmeric in it. And then you would put your tofu in there. You can crumble the tofu, just use a fork and mash it and mix that in and season it to your taste. So that's one way. Another way that we do it is we freeze the tofu. You can freeze it. That's another way to, oh, by the way, once your tofu is done, remember there is no preservative in it. So if you're selling them, you need to make them, like I make them today because I'm delivering them tomorrow. And then they're packaged in water. But if you're doing it for yourself, you keep it in the refrigerator and you change the water every week, right? At least once a week, you want to change the water. And if you freeze it, once it's frozen, it has a different texture. It's more now like a chicken breast kind of texture. It's firmer, it's easier to work with. And then you can take that out. One way that we would normally do it is, instead of cutting it, we would use our hands and just break it. So it doesn't have any particular shape. It's not square, it's not round. You just break it anyhow. And that kind of would give you maybe like a beef look. And you season it with the same way you would season your beef, and you cook that. So once it's seasoned, then I would put it in the oven to bake so that the outside is kind of crispy. And then, as Shantae said, I would make a sauce and I would put it in it. If you were to make your tofu today, cook it today and eat it tomorrow, it tastes much better than cooking it today and eating it today, because it has no taste, it has no flavor, but it will take in whatever flavor you put there. So it will absorb the liquid from the gravy that you made into it. So if you're gonna do that, make a little extra gravy because it is going to absorb the gravy that you have it in. Another thing that you can do is season it the night before. So if you season it the night before and it is in a little liquid, or even if you don't season it, even if you soak it in salt water the night before, then it changes the taste and the flavor. Something that you can do, I have tried already, is you can decide you want to make a herb tofu. So when you are when you're putting the milk on the fire, after you put it on the fire, then I would put some herbs in it, whatever herbs you like, cilantro, or Italian seasoning. The dried herb, I would put that in it. And then when you put your coagulant in it and mix it, then the herb is scattered all over the tofu. So that's another thing that you can do. But anything that you can think of doing with chicken, you can do it. So you can slice it in big pieces and use that as a sandwich for your to put in your sandwich. Stay away from the frying as much as possible. But if you bake it and you sprinkle a little oil over it, then at least it would be less. My bread is coming over the pot. So I have a timer going for 4 more minutes. And you asked me to show you the okara. Here it is. This is the pulp from the soybeans, right? So I'm going to go back to my space here.
So what are you doing now?
The bread that I made, it's rising over the pot because the pot is small, right?
Okay. So what are you gonna do?
I have the pan already greased, so I'm just going to put it in the pan because remember it has to rise again. And we have just a few more minutes. Once I've done that, it's not gonna take as long. Then
We can't
I
see
will.
the counter though, so.
Oh, sorry.
You sure
Then
you
I'm
want to
going.
rush and do this and not wait until the tofu's done?
I have 3 minutes left on it, but I don't want it to come over the pot. I'll show you. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's ready to come over. I don't want it to come over. So and remember I didn't grease this pot, so now I have to pry this one out of the pot, but it's basically the same thing.
So after you knead this one, then you're gonna put it in a glass container to bake it?
Yeah, I'm using a different container. This is a very big bread pan that I have, and it will just hold all of this. Are you still seeing the counter?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So this one will be a big bread then.
This will be a big bread. And okay, so at least you guys get to see how you see this twice, so you know exactly what to do when you're doing your bread.
And we get to
right?
see you working out too.
Oh boy. Yes. So, you know, that's why I just love when I make the bread and it turns out nice. I feel so good. Oh. And yes, I do get disappointed when it doesn't turn out so good.
Yeah.
You look happy in the kitchen.
Yeah, I love being in the kitchen. I love to experiment and You know, sometimes I just say, Lord, what do I do with this? Teach me what to do. And he does, you know, he teaches us. This is a big bread. So I think I'm going to still cut it in two. I'm just gonna check. I'm gonna check the time on the milk.
Maybe you should put the thermometer in, turn us around, and just stay on that side.
Yeah.
And you can tell us the temperature too.
It is at 65. Is that
Um,
60?
yeah,
Sorry for all
let's,
that.
oh,
It's
you're
at
gonna do the
65.
bread. Okay.
I put a little more time. And I'm just greasing another bread pan here. So
Yeah, I
I can
mean, I'm sure a lot of, well, there are only women on the call, but a lot of you can relate to my mom doing so many things in the kitchen all at once.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just do one
Yes.
thing, always multitasking. And
yeah.
that's why it's good to have timers, to stay.
And it's good to involve your children. If you have young children,
Or old
this is a
children.
good time. Or older ones too. This is a good time to get them involved and you know, they don't get in the way. Sometimes, oh, I can't bother to try to teach the child because they get in the way and it takes much longer. Yes, it does. It takes a little longer. But at the end of the day, look at the valuable lessons that you're teaching your children. Things that they're learning, things that we never learned. You know?
Oh, it seems like one of the dogs wants to help you in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we're gonna assume that oh no, you can't open the oven because you have other breads in the oven.
Yes. So no, remember that one has to rise
Oh,
for
it still
30
has
more
to. Okay. It's hard to keep track
minutes.
of all the things. Okay.
Yes. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do the tofu.
Turn us
So
around, please.
we're gonna put the tofu in the mold while we wait on the other one. I will turn you around as soon as I clean my hands.
Let me check the temperature before you do that one.
Yes.
Guys, I can tell you, I'm gonna assume that my mom misses me
You know she
to
does.
help her make the tofu.
I do. Okay, so I have 10 degrees left.
10 degrees left. Okay.
Yeah.
And the coagulant is measured out.
Yes.
Yes, measured out. And
How
I'm
far
ready for
are
it. Okay, so
Can we see
here we go.
what the pot looks like before? Wait, show us before.
Okay, let me push it down because it boiled over. Can you see it?
Not clearly. You have to bring it to us.
Okay.
Mommy, I want you to wait.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Kind of. It just looks white.
I can't tilt it because it's
Yeah, it's heavy and hot. Mommy, I think you should wait. Let's wait.
I still have 5 degrees left.
No, Mommy, wait, Mommy, wait. Let's wait.
Okay, any questions?
Turn us towards the tofu on the stove. so we can see everything. You see,
Are
she
you
has the
seeing it?
thermometer. Yeah, you have the thermometer hanging out. And you're gonna stand close to the pot now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this pot is also shallow. It's not my
Mm-hmm.
usual deep tofu pot, so
Yeah.
it's good that I'm on top of it.
Mommy, stop the timer, please. Okay, so while my mom is standing right there and not moving, I'm gonna tell you some other things you can do with tofu.
She moved.
So see, my mom just moved. Parents, you also need to learn to listen to instructions. um, you can use tofu to make sauces, like a really good mayonnaise. You can make a tofu mayonnaise. You can make a tofu cashew mayonnaise. You can use tofu to make cheesecake. You can use tofu to make any kind of sauce that you like. So it doesn't only have to be savory. You can also use it with desserts, like with tofu, like with cheesecake. So, okay, she's lifting the pot and she just poured in the salt and now she's stirring.
At the same time. And you see, I'm making the S shape and I'm done.
And she turned off the fire.
And I remove it from the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one was better.
Praise the Lord.
And I cover it. And I'm smelling the bread. Smells real nice. So I have this wooden spoon. It's a nice big one. And the only thing I use it for is tofu. I don't use it to do anything else. Just like my other tofu utensils, it's just for tofu.
No, Chrissy says she don't. I agree with you, Chrissy. She's just teasing us. She is such a tease.
Okay, so now I can go back over here.
Yes.
And you need to have your slotted spoon, I guess they call this. And remember, I would be in the sink, right? But because I want you to be able to see it, that's why I'm doing it up here. And now I am removing the curd, which is the tofu, from the pot, and I'm gonna put it in the mold. So can you see that?
Yeah.
There you go. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one big piece of curd. So you remove all of that from the pot and you place it in your mold. Now you can pour it in the mold immediately after taking it off the fire, but it will cause it's hotter, and usually the mold is not big enough to hold everything. So you might have to do it and stop. And so it's best to just wait 10 minutes, 10 to 30 minutes. You don't want it to get cold, because if it does, then what happens is that it will not hold together properly, or it will be because it's too cold, it will hold on to a lot more of the liquid. All right, so once I scrape that out, I usually leave this to sit for a little bit. So everything goes to the bottom. I pour the water off, and we will pour out the rest of the tofu that's inside of this. And before long, you will have your nicely formed tofu. So I'm gonna pour off the water.
And that keeps your drains nice and clear.
Yes, at least once a month or get a flush.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we get all the goodness out of that. And then you are just going to fold the cloth over nicely. And I don't know what, oh, here. And use the press to press on it. And I press and I pour off the excess water. That's why you want to do it in the sink so the water is not collected in the container. It runs out. And then I have another colander like that, and I put this on top of it. In this is just a baking tray, and I put the weight on top of it, and that's it. In another 10 to 15 minutes, this is well shaped, and you can take that out of the
Yes.
mold.
So the weight is there to help get rid of the excess water and press all that tofu together. Now Debbie Ann is asking, tell me about the mold. So the mold, my mom mentioned earlier, she ordered it online. And so the mold is there just to give it the shape. So if you want to start making tofu and you don't have the mold right away, she mentioned you can use like a clean t-shirt and you can use that instead of the mold. I'm not sure what other questions you have about the mold, Debian.
Remember the t-shirt must be white. You don't
Yes.
want anything that has any dye in it.
Shante, you have a question?
Yes, in relation to the thermometer, you said that if we don't have one, at what point in time do we decide to put in the coagulant?
Very good question. That means you have to watch it even closer.
You
And
cannot move
just
from the stove.
just as it starts to rise, just that means you're watching it. Just as it
Oh,
starts to rise, then you add the coagulant.
okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, and once you add the coagulant, you stir it a few times, you move it off the fire because it will continue to boil.
Okay.
If you wait too long to move it off the fire after adding the coagulant, it will still boil over. But if you have a big enough pot, then you don't have to worry about it coming over, right? So try to get a
Okay.
deep enough pot, which we have the pots that they call stock pots, which are bigger than the or maybe about the size of a white bucket. Let me show you one. So the pot that we use to keep the water is about, to keep the milk in, is about this deep, right? And then you want to cook it in a pot that is deep enough so that it has space at the top. All right.
Okay. And
Any
then you
other?
said you remove it and let it stand for about 10 to 30 minutes. Well, about 10 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you strain it.
And then you drain it.
Drain it. Okay.
And then once that is done, then you are going to let it sit. Once you put it in your mold, or you put it in a cloth, and if you put it in a cloth, then remember it's hot. So you're gonna have to be, let me show you something. If you put it in the cloth, right, then you're gonna hold the cloth up just as we did with when we were doing the milk. You're gonna hold up all the sides, and you can use a tongue because this is hot. You can use a tongue to turn this part because you won't be able to use your hand, right? Or if you put it in the cloth lengthwise, then you can put it in the middle of the cloth, then you hold it together like this and you turn it in 2 different directions. And when you turn it like this, it will squeeze the water out. Then you put the ends together and put the weight on this portion of the cloth. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? If you're going,
When will we get to taste this tofu?
when COVID is finished, maybe, then you all can visit me.
Oh dear. You keep making things and we can't taste them.
Well, what can I say? I am a bit far from everybody. But yes, I just want to mold this one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. We have 6 minutes left on the bread. So the bread is almost finished, and the other one is rising nicely on the stove. Yep, they're coming up. So once that one is done, then I can put the other set in. And these breads, most, like at least this batch that is made here today, it will be given away. So when I'm
To me?
making bread,
To me? To me?
when I'm making bread, I usually make a couple so that I have enough for a couple days, or at least. My husband loves bread. He eats bread every single day. Every single day he eats bread. So
So,
here's something that you can do as well. I'm coming, Christine.
okay.
This very recipe, what you can do, you can add some raisins to it, or you can add some cranberries to it, whatever you want. Once you have started doing it and you understand what you're doing, then just throw some other things in it. I mean, you can add your seeds in it if you want. I prefer to eat my seeds, not to have them in my bread, but maybe you wouldn't mind. But you can add raisins to it. You can turn it into cinnamon bread. We don't use cinnamon, we use coriander and cardamom. We add that to it to give it cinnamon bread and with some raisins. So you can do anything you want with it after you have practiced and you know what you're doing. Yes, Christine.
Oh, yes. You use 6 cups of whole wheat flour. I know someone asked if you can use camel flour as well. So if you use 6 cups, the portions we get in the store is just about 6 cups. So where do you get a whole lot of whole wheat flour or camel flour to buy?
What's the name of so this is what I use, and this is 10 kg, and I bought this at what's the name of that supermarket that was just Freshco? I bought this at Freshco. This is 10 kg. I think it's also sold at No Frills. The 10 kg one is also
Hold it up
at No.
again, please. I want to take a picture of it. Because when I want to make something, I don't want to be making bread every week. So I would rather make several loaves and then freeze them, because then I'm out of the kitchen for a couple of weeks.
Right, right.
So
That's
would
true.
you mind holding it up again, please? The packet.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. But the other thing that I do is the person that I buy the soybeans from, I also buy wheat from him, and I have a machine and I grind my own flour.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you. What kind of
Okay.
machine do you need to grind?
Pardon me?
Thank you for the you can
You
put
can
that
put it
10
down
kg
now.
down. What kind of machine do you use to grind your wheat berries?
A flour mill. I
Okay.
use a flour mill, and you can grind. I buy the wheat berries or the spelt berries, the kamut berries, even your rice, your own brown rice that you have, you can put it through it as well and get your brown rice flour. So that's what I do if I need a large quantity, and I always have some on hand.
And did you pre-bake your flour?
This flour, no, this one is not pre-baked, but usually that's the right thing to do.
Okay.
Last week I made some bread, some roti with oatmeal flour and sweet potato. That was all in the ingredients.
So Chrissy, I'm gonna ask you to set up a Zoom meeting and teach us how to do that.
Yes.
Well, it didn't come out. It didn't come out that perfect. It cracked a little bit, but I was talking to the next person, and they said they followed the recipe so many times exactly, and it's the same way. But it was still good. It folded really nice, and it was very soft.
Right, but even the fact that you know how to make roti, because we don't know how to do those things. So if you let me know, I am willing to set up a Zoom call for you, and you can plan everything else and teach us how to make roti.
Well, I'll think about that.
So that's good, Chrissy, because roti is a flat bread, right? Because
Yes.
you don't have any yeast in it or baking powder, correct?
No, but it did raise when you put it on the fire. It did raise.
Yeah, so
Like
that's
the heat does that.
yeah. Okay, so this I'll move the laptop so you can see this one. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this one in a mold as well. And then we would have, so there you go. Your nice clump of curd milk.
I don't know if you plan to talk about what to do if you just want to make soy milk, because I know it's almost 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're almost done. That's the alarm for the bread. So if you're gonna make soy milk, it's the same process. You blend the soy, you soak the soy milk, the soybeans overnight, and then you blend it 3-to-1.
Mommy, wait. Okay, go ahead. Don't forget the bread though.
Yeah, you will ensure that I don't forget.
Oh dear.
You know, even as I'm looking in, oh, never mind. When you mix the you blend it 3-to-1, and then after you're done, you put it on the fire and you bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you turn the heat down on low and you allow it to boil for about 20 minutes. And once that is done, then you add your salt. You're gonna add salt. If you want vanilla flavor, you add some vanilla. And you can add some honey if you want it sweet. If you don't want it sweet, then you don't add any sweetener at all. And that's your soy milk. So when I'm done, the rest of beans that I have, I'm gonna blend that and I'm gonna make me some soy milk.
So you have to boil the soy milk once it's blended.
Yes, because it has a beany taste. If you don't boil it, then you're gonna be getting like a beany flavor, which you don't want, right?
When I make almond milk, I have to put it through a milk bag to get rid of the trash. Do you get that in the soy milk as well?
And not if you blend it through the you can still blend it through your milk bag.
Okay.
Or if
You mean
you just blend it through
strain it.
strain it, sorry, through the boil. It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's
Before you
just that
boil it.
this time, yeah, this with soy, you're straining it before you boil it. But with
Yes.
the almonds, you would strain it after.
But do you boil the
And,
almond
and
milk? I don't
No,
boil
you
mine.
don't boil the almond milk.
Okay, okay.
I'm saying you would strain it after blending it.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thanks.
and when I'm making my almond milk, I don't blend it. I don't strain it, sorry. I don't strain it.
You don't.
No,
Mommy
because
eats everything.
what do you do with the trash when you strain it? You're gonna throw that out unless you're gonna use it to make some cookies or something. I am not throwing away my goodness.
Okay.
All right, so these are, can you see them? These are ready for the
Yeah.
oven. So I'm just gonna put them in as we take out the other one. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna take the others out and I'm gonna put these in.
You're gonna have lots of bread. Well,
That's why
Daddy
I'm
will be
giving them
happy.
away.
Oh, you're giving them away.
Yes. Okay,
Wow,
so
that looks
here,
so good.
Oh, nice, nice.
yeah, and the
Wow.
reason I like to use the clear container is because, I can see what's happening, the color. If it was white, then I wouldn't want to take it out as yet. And
Make sure you take pictures.
I should, eh?
You
This
should.
one,
Wow.
I'm showing you this because I want you to notice here, there's a dent there. That's because it rose too much.
Oh.
So it went up too high. So there was a big air bubble. So once it bakes, then it goes back down. So you're leaving them in the container for a couple minutes, and then you're gonna put them on a rack. You're gonna put them on a rack to cool, so that they will cool nicely, and you have them ready for. I don't know if you can hear that. Usually they say,
We could just we could hear, I could hear it.
Yes, it
you're
sounds
to
like
knock
that.
it, and if it has this hollow sound, then you know that it's done. So yes, so those are our breads and our tofu. And if you have no more questions, then we have your email addresses. We are going to send you the information via email. That's the information that was on the PowerPoint. We'll send it to you via email. And again, if you are going to make something, so say for example, you decided that a particular day you're gonna make tofu, because it's good when you practice, right? And practice shortly after this so that you don't forget it. But if you're gonna make it and you need help, just send me an email. You have to email me before. Good question, Chrissy, good question. Email me before so that I can prepare, and I will walk you through making it in your own kitchen now. You're making it in your own kitchen. So Chrissy asked, how do I package it? And I bought a sealer, and this is the size bag that I use. So this is a food saver sealer, and this is not necessarily a food saver bag, because in business you're trying to get your product at the less price. So the food saver bag is a little bit more expensive, but it works with the sealer that I have. So I cut this based on the size of my tofu. I cut this, I seal one end. So I would seal this end. Then I put these two sides are already sealed. It comes sealed already. Then I would put the tofu in, and I'm not doing it today. I am going to put these, once I unwrap them, I'm going to put them in cold water and put them in the fridge. That way it firms up even more and makes it easier for handling. But yes, you could do it, you could seal it the same day, but I allow it to stay overnight because it firms it up some more. And then I put it in this and I close the top with the same sealer. I seal the top. And if you're going to do it big time in business, then you would want to get a label with your business name and the ingredients. And usually the ingredients, you wouldn't say Epsom salt now, you would use the scientific name, right? And you would put the ingredients as soybean, water, and the
Magnesium sulfate.
magnesium sulfide, right? So that's what you would do. So that I don't use a label, but this is what I use to seal it. And it comes on a roll. So it's a roll. The roll is, I bought this at Amazon, and it is 50 feet by 8.5 inches across. I don't know, 8.5 by 50, the length. And I just cut them up when I need them. So that's how I package them.
And if you're going to keep them if you're going to make the tofu and not use them right away, you put them in the sealer and you can freeze them in that way. You said it has a different texture, but do you freeze the tofu once you make it?
Yes, you can, after you seal them in the bag, you can freeze them if you want.
Yeah, so this is one, this one is actually Donisha's when I see her next time.
I got a tofu.
And so this is from the last batch that we made. We made some extra for our two girls. And this is what when it is sealed, and we freeze them. But you can also just keep them in a container in the fridge as long as the water is covering it. You can keep it in the fridge and change the water every week if you don't want it to have the different texture.
Okay, thank you.
With this, when it's thawed, then you have to squeeze it to get the excess water out of it. And once you get the excess water out of it, then when you make like a gravy, it absorbs all of that that gravy and adds to the flavor.
Okay, thanks.
So are we gonna
Mhm.
see you open up one of the ones you made? Or is it too soon?
Yes, I could open the first one. That would be nice.
Mm-hmm. As long as it's not too hot for you. I
No.
see. Okay.
Okay. So this was the spilled one. So
That one is Christine's.
Shame on you, Donisha. How am I going to get it?
based on
Okay.
the measurement that we use, the tofu is usually between 450 to 650 kg.
Wow.
Do you mean grams? I think it,
Whatever.
anyways, yeah.
Yeah. I am old school. I'm still into pounds and ounces. So it is over a pound. It's usually over a pound, right? So there it is. I took the top off, which is basically the part that I use to hold the weight, put the weight on top of it to press it down. Remember, it's hot when you're dealing with it. And then I just take this out. So this is it in the cloth that comes with the tofu wrap. And then you just gently unwrap it. And yeah, this one is still hot. But there you go.
Oh, good.
And as I said, this one is slightly smaller because we lost some of the milk, but that's it. You can see the steam still coming out of it. I don't know, but it's spongy at this time until you put it in the water and put it in the fridge. And the reason you want to put it in water before putting it in the fridge is that it will absorb the smell of anything else that you have in the fridge, and you don't want your tofu smelling of whatever. So you always add water to it. All right. I think
Okay.
that's it from me. If you have no other questions, it was a pleasure doing this. And what we are going to do, if you have friends who would want to see the process of both the bread making and the tofu making, we're gonna save the video and we will ask for a contribution. Remember, this is our livelihood. This is what we live off. So as much as we would want to say, yeah, we'll do it for free, but you can see that a lot of effort went into it, or a lot of effort goes into doing it. So we would ask for a contribution, and then we would send the video to the person.
Okay.
If you have any friends, you can let them know.
On behalf of everyone here, I'd like to thank you for inviting us again into your kitchen. Thank you for showing us how to make some good bread. You showed us how to make tofu. Unfortunately, we can't get any of it, but that is why we're learning, so that we can make it ourselves and share it with
Yes,
others.
Yes.
that's
So thank
yes.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what? It's so sad that we can't invite everyone to help you clean up that kitchen. Oh man, but we hope that it won't be too much work to clean up afterwards.
Before we go, for the recipes, how do we get the recipe?
They'll be emailed to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Would this video be on the website so we can use it as a refresher?
I would want it to be on the website. I need to talk to my mom about it.
Oh, okay. All right.
If maybe late sometime later, but if we're gonna share it with other persons who we're hoping would contribute, then we wouldn't want to put it on the website right away.
Mommy, I
But
was thinking we could just do it the way we did it with the password the last time. So just put the video and the slides up on the website
Okay.
with the password, and then only those who have previously registered or who want to register can have access to it. So
Okay.
we'll work on all of that, and we will send out an email when everything is up on the website so that you can stay up to date on that. Again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Mommy, for all your hard work. I hope you get some time to relax this evening.
Yes,
I,
thank you
I
so
just,
much.
Any
maybe I
last
can come and help
questions?
you. Maybe I can come and help you pack.
Chrissy, where do you live?
Yes.
Where do you live?
Oh, I live in Trinidad.
Oh, really?
I'll just take a swim.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Thanks for
Wow.
offering, though.
That would be very nice, Chrissy. That
No
would be
problem.
very nice. But,
Yes.
What is the next
yeah.
thing you're gonna teach? You're gonna show how to make.
Pardon me?
What's the next thing you're going to